triggers allow us to string together movements to create more complex motion profiles. And in Spikemark, we have 4 different kinds. Let's take a look on how we program them and what they can do. Let's give ourselves a clean space to work by adding a new cue and adding the push stick to it on playback 1. Let's go ahead and we'll send this to 120 inches and we'll do it nice and fast with a speed of 36, an ACell of 36, and a decel of 36, and save those changes. Now let's introduce our first trigger, the delay trigger. Adding it to the cue is the same as adding motors. We come over to our trigger toolbox, we grab our delay trigger, we click, drag, and drop it onto the cue. We can see we've added it because we now see this new line that says step 1 starts and then triggers step 2 after a 0-second delay. If we click it, this will bring up our properties for that trigger, and since it's a delay trigger, it is a delay in seconds. So let's go ahead and do a 6-second delay, save those changes, and then our step 2, let's send the push stick back to 240. So to do that, we'll go ahead, we'll grab it, we'll drag it, we'll drop it onto the step, and then we can see step 2, we can select that push stick movement, type in our parameters, we'll go fast again, 36 for our speed, ACell, and our decel, save our changes, and then I can go ahead and I can load it. I can press our hold to run and press our go button. We can see that the push stick runs to 120, and then after that delay of 6 seconds, we start our second movement. And once our motion is complete, I can release the hold to run. Let's go ahead and keep adding on to this with our second trigger, the completion trigger. Again, to add that, I just come over to our trigger toolbox. I select, drag, and drop our completion trigger. I'm going to add this on as our step 3. So we can see step 2 completes, then triggers step 3. If I click it, there's nothing to edit for it. I'll grab our push stick V2. I'll drop it on there. And let's go ahead and we'll send this back to 120 inches as well. Nice and fast still, 36, 36, 36, and I can save our changes. And now this looks like, we can see we start, we run to 120, and then after that 6 seconds is up, we run back to 240. And then once the motor gets there, we run back to 120. And once we're complete, we're going to let go of the hold to run. Let's go ahead and create a new cue to show off our third type of trigger, the position trigger. So I'm going to create a new cue using the keyboard shortcut, Control U. I'm going to drag in the push stick. I'm going to select it and change its motion profiles. I'm going to go 240, and we'll go fast, 36, 36, and I'm going to save our changes. Now I'm going to grab our position trigger from the trigger toolbox, drag that over, and select it. And so now what this allows is me to pick a motor. So we're going to go ahead and use the push stick V2, set a watch position. So once the push stick reaches this position, it'll trigger the next step. So let's go ahead and use 180 inches, save those changes. And then I'm going to grab the spot line and drag that as my step 2. I'm going to run this to 10. I'm going to run this at 24, 24, and 24, and save changes. Now I'm going to go ahead and run this. I'm going to load it, press our hold to run, and press the go button. We can see that the push stick starts. Once it hit that 180 inches, it triggered step 2, and our spot line went. Now that it's complete, I'm going to go ahead and I can release the hold to run. To show off the last type of trigger, the FX input trigger, I'm going to need an FX. So I'm going to quick add that. Mine's connected to IP52. I'm going to go ahead, connect, and I'm going to use the keyboard shortcut Control U to create a new cue for me to start from. I'm going to start with my push stick. I'm going to send this to 10. We'll go at 24. We'll go 24 and 24. Now I'm gonna add my FX input trigger the same way I've added all my other triggers, by grabbing, dragging, and dropping. So what the FX input trigger will let me do is when I click it, it'll let me pick the FX and which input I want. I'm gonna go ahead and use 1, save those changes. So now when FX input 1 goes high, is activated, and it will then trigger step 2. And in my step 2, I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna grab my spot line, and I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna send this back to 50. And we'll do this at 12, 6, and 6, and save those changes. So now, once I load this and start running it, what'll happen is our push stick will start to go, and then that will have started our step 1, which then arms this trigger. So now it's listening for input 1, and once I press that, it'll go ahead and it'll trigger step 2. So let's go ahead and see. So I'm gonna load this, press my hold to run, and then go ahead and press the go button. And then once I press the input on the FX, we can see, there it goes. And once we're done, I can release my hold to run,